Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Midday Musing on Life and Leadership. I'm your host, Rita. And as always, I'm joined by my wonderful friend and co-host, Pam. How are you today, Pam?
I'm doing great, Rita. It's so good to see you. Just to update our audience, we've been diving deep into the topic of contempt in our recent sessions. It's been quite enlightening. For those who might be new or need a refresher, the last two series were inspired by Reignite the Spark Marriage workshop we held in June. And the attendees were particularly interested in understanding the nuances of contempt and its impact on relationships. I highly encourage our viewers to go back and listen to those podcasts so that they can see the whole transitions on why we're talking about the topic we're going to address today.
Yes, right. We have received some really good feedback on that topic. Today, we're going to be diving into actionable strategies to help combat contempt in our life. I know we're going to talk about some practicals or what are some things we could do to overcome contempt in our life. And one such thing is appreciation. We're going to do a brief dive, not a deep dive, into this topic on appreciation in our short podcast today and see what we can learn about it and how we can start applying it in our own lives. So Pam, tell us about the definition of appreciation.
Yes, topic today is appreciation. It's a simple tool, but it's really powerful. During my research on joy, when I was writing the book, I was truly amazed by the transformative power of appreciation. In fact, I dedicated a whole chapter to appreciation, so I encourage our audience to check that out. We're going to give you 9 appreciation killers. So I encourage you to go and get a notebook or a pen because these are really, really important for us to recognize so that we can increase our appreciation skills. And then we're going to end with some practicals to help us. So why don't you tell me what appreciation means to you?
Well, appreciation is more than just saying thank you, right? It's about recognizing and valuing the efforts that other person makes or the qualities that they have, just the presence of people around us. In relationships, I believe appreciation acts as a nurturing force, makes us feel belonged, and it also brings forth mutual respect for one another. According to our research, Dr. John Gottman, leading expert in relationship psychology, he talks about couples who regularly express appreciation are more likely to have stable and satisfying relationships. Regularly express appreciation. This is because, gratitude and appreciation, they go hand in hand, right? And they bring positivity, which in turn strengthens our bonds with each other. Emotionally, we feel connected, then we feel happy. There's also a quote someone said, feeling gratitude, not expressing it, is like wrapping a present and not giving it. This quote, it talks about the idea of how appreciation must be expressed in order for it to be effective. I know, so many times in our life, my life, when someone appreciates me or says something genuinely, it makes me happy. I know the good about giving thanks in all circumstances. And that's the secret of being happy. So that appreciation is not just saying something, but it is more than that.
A great quote, Rita. I have to remember that. It's sad to think about wrapping a gift and not giving it. So I'm going to, whenever I feel gratitude, I will have to express that appreciation. So let's transition and talk about those 9 appreciation killers.
All right. The first one we're going to talk about is negativity bias. As human beings, and you all know, sometimes our natural default can be negative, right? We tend to focus on the things that are not good or the things that didn't go well, which then overshadow the positives. And then that makes it very difficult to express good things or express appreciation. I know for me, that has been my biggest challenge in my life, where I tend to see what should have been done and what didn't go well and what was wrong, rather than looking at what went right. When sometimes we come back from work talking about everything that was stressful at work or all the problems that occurred, and I forget to say about that person who encouraged me, or that someone who offered a compliment, or that someone who gave me the support. I don't mention all of that. So that can be an appreciation killer.
Thank you for bringing that up. And definitely it kills your joy also. The second appreciation killer is entitlement. Entitlement can kill appreciation. For example, in my last podcast, I shared about my expectation that my husband should do the dishes. Well, now I realized that I was acting like an entitled wife. But when I switched mindset to appreciate his efforts rather than looking at the things he did different than I did, I felt a deeper connection to him. So entitlement can kill appreciation.
I mean, one of the other things that I think as an appreciation killer is a lack of mindfulness. When we're not present, we're constantly distracted, or our mind is preoccupied, and my mind's always thinking something, right? And all of us have this mental chatter that constantly goes on in the background, constantly having this talk with ourselves, or we're brooding over something. So we're not present. And it prevents us from noticing the good things around us. Someone does an act of kindness, we don't notice it because we're so preoccupied. And sometimes we're at a family dinner, someone worked really hard, they made all the food, but we are constantly on the phone and we're looking at it, and we miss out on the opportunity to actually appreciate that person's effort or the cooking or anything that went into making that time special. So that could be another killer.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that. It's so convicting. It's easy for me to not be mindful and then not notice the good that's in the world that somebody probably made efforts to help. Well, let's dive fourth appreciation killer, and which is comparison. In my book, I quoted Roosevelt, who says, comparison is the thief of joy. So it's actually one of our joy leaks. How does that happen? Well, when we compare ourselves to others, we fail to recognize the effort that it took for that person to get there. It prevents us from appreciating them, but stops us from learning from their journey. We're sitting and comparing, we're not able to appreciate, and we're also stealing the lessons that we can learn from that person.
That's true. I think that's a big one, especially with the social media and everything that's happening around us nowadays. That's a big one, comparison. I think another thing that comes to my mind, which is a common appreciation killer, is just stress and burnout. We are living in a time of high stress. Not that life is more difficult, it's just we get more stressed out now compared to probably before. Stress and burnout, they're constantly in our life. It creates emotional drain. We're emotionally drained and we have no energy. And therefore, we're focused on ourselves. We're not able to see and express the good thing in other people. So sometimes we get so overwhelmed with our jobs, our studies, being a mother, being a wife or a girlfriend or sister or grandmother or whatever role we are in. If we are constantly under stress, then there's a good chance we're not noticing about other people and appreciating them. So that's definitely a killer.
True. Recognizing when we're stressed and how it's stealing that joy. We're at number 6 now, is a lack of communication. So poor communication can often hinder our ability to express appreciation. And I'm going to give you an example from my life. I remember, Rita, you and I come from a culture that it's not a norm or a practice to appreciate. Remember when my aunt had made this tasty Indian dinner, and I just went and I said, "Wow, this meal is so tasty." I looked at her face, and she almost looked angry. She wasn't able to accept my appreciation. And one of the things that she said was, "Now that you've literally cursed this dish, someone's going to eat it and feel sick." And so it's not a cultural norm that to even receive appreciation. So that whole communication about appreciation can have different effects on different people. I thought it'll be good for us to recognize that. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know if you've experienced that.
Oh, yes. I guess maybe some parts of the Eastern culture, I guess appreciation is not really encouraged because when someone appreciates you, they don't believe it or they think, oh, they're casting an evil eye on you. I remember growing up and having this thing said to me. My mom would be all worried because everyone said so many good things about me. So you see, there was a negative connotation to receiving appreciation. So obviously it wasn't looked upon as a good thing. So I know what you mean. One of the things I've also realized an appreciation killer can be our own insecurity. Sometimes when people give us compliments, we don't trust their intention or we dismiss them because we think they're not really sincere or they don't really mean it or they're simply saying it for the sake of saying it and not reciprocate the appreciation. So you see, insecurity can play a big role in receiving appreciation as well as giving appreciation. So sometimes it can happen in our office or in work scenarios where some people give compliments, but we don't believe it because we think they don't really mean it or they're saying simply because they want something from us. And so that can be an appreciation killer as well because there's an insecurity, the feeling that we're unworthy of praise.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that. The eighth appreciation killer is just routine and familiarity. When someone or something becomes routine and their efforts are seen as expected, we often stop noticing and appreciating them. So routine and familiarity can be an appreciation killer. I look at moments in the past when I could have appreciated my parents more, but just took them for granted because there is an expectation that comes with our family members, perhaps leaders in our lives. We don't appreciate what they do because we just expect them to do it. So that can be an appreciation killer.
Yes, you are right, Pam. I guess one of the things I regret in my life is also the fact that I didn't thank my dad enough. My dad's no more, but I always have that in my heart. I wish I had said things that would have made him happy and just appreciated him. And I think that is so true. And our final appreciation killer is what we say growing up in a critical environment. I know that this doesn't cover everything, but one of the things is how you grow up. If you grow up in a highly critical environment where people only correct you, but they don't give you any compliments or they don't say anything nice to you, then it becomes very difficult for people to express appreciation or even feel appreciated. So I know that in some cultures, again, we alluded to it earlier, when you do something wrong, you get corrected. But when you do something right, nobody says anything to you. That can be very demotivating. So we have to see what kind of environment we are in how that also plays an important role in being an appreciation killer.
We talked about those killers, and I encourage our listeners to be able to recognize these 9 killers. It's not an extensive list, but these definitely hinder us from connecting. Yes. We've covered the definition of appreciation, and we've talked about 9 appreciation killers. And now transition into practicals on how can we apply appreciation to our lives.
What are some steps that we can do today practically and start being people who give appreciation and receive appreciation? So what do you think, Pam? What are some small steps that I can take that can help me today?
I really encourage the readers to read the chapter in the book where I do a deep dive on how our brain processes appreciation. So I'm going to give you an example from my life. Yesterday, I decided to go on a retreat, a silent retreat to prepare for the fall. And in Michigan, we have beautiful sunsets and sunrises. And it's easy just to walk and look at the sunset and see, oh, that's beautiful. And still in our left brain, look at it, check sunset, that's nice. But the way our right brain processes information is very different. It experiences it. So when you just take a moment there and experience the joy of that sunset, wonder at it, talk about it, we connect the left and the right brain, and we store this memory, this positive memory in our body minds. Our brains are naturally wired to focus on the negative just to protect us. But what if you train your brain to appreciate, to start knowing our minds, our brain seeing the good things in life? So I want to encourage our listeners as a practical to start an appreciation bank. almost like putting deposits in your brain of positive experiences that you have. And one of the practices that my husband and I do every night is before we go to bed, we ask each other, what are some appreciation moments that you enjoy today? We get to share appreciation with each other, and our relationships also get closer and tightened. So start creating that appreciation bank and have one for your husband, for your children. Store up those memories, because when the times of stress, we talked about another appreciation killer, which is stress. We have a reservoir of a bank, a deposit that we've made that we can access so that we have less stress, we have more joy. So I really encourage us to start creating those appreciation banks. And if you really want exactly how our brain processes it, I encourage you to buy my book.
Well, I love it. There were so many little nuggets in what you shared, especially about creating an appreciation bank. I never thought about it that way, but I think that's so good. If we can just do the one for each member in our families or people that we associate with. And I think that's a great idea. I also want to highlight that when you appreciate someone, you don't just state it, but you connect feeling to it. How did it make you feel? I think that is taking one step deeper. That makes it more genuine. Not just saying thank you, but thank you on appreciating the effort, the qualities, or what it made you feel. I think that's a great insight as well. I hope that we can actually start practicing it starting today as we come to the end of our on appreciation. I hope that we are able to grasp some practical things that we can start applying in our relationships, because I do think that appreciation can be such a boost in relationships. It can transform relationships. It is an antidote to contempt. So if we have contempt in our relationships, by learning to appreciate, we can overcome that and beat it. I want to thank everyone joining us today, and let's remember to keep building our appreciation bank.
So until next time, thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.